Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to do a tag video, the anti-TBR tag. So I've seen a ton of booktubers do this and it looked like an interesting tag video, so I thought it would be fun to give it a try. I also have a helper here today. This is Stormy. Say hi to everybody, Stormy. No, you're not going to talk now? Oh, okay. So if you see him throughout the video, don't be alarmed. He's just helping me film. Question number 1. A popular book that everyone loves that you have no intention of reading. This one was easy, and for me, it's Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Everybody and their brother seems to love this video on BookTube, and I know based on what I've heard about it that it is not the book for me. Everybody talks about how smutty these books are, and I don't like books with smut in them. So as great as this book sounds, and as much as everyone loves it, I know it's one that I will never ever pick up. Question 2. A classic book or author you have no interest in reading. So I can't think of a particular book or author that I would absolutely hard stop say, no, I would not read that. There was a time in my life I would have said every classic ever, but I have actually slowly started reading classics and found some of them to be more enjoyable than I would have thought. So I don't really want to do a I would never read that because it feels like a very never say never kind of thing. One thing I could say is maybe more like a classic horror book because I don't read horror in general. So I can't picture myself picking up classic horror if I won't even read modern day horror. So classic horror, I guess, would be my answer for this question. So next up is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So for this, I'm going to say Sarah J. Maas. I've read Catwoman, which is right here, and is part of like the DC Icons series, as I really liked the first 2 books in the series, and at some point I want to read the 4th one, and they're all written by different authors. But I believe her series are A Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorn and Roses, and neither one of them interests me in the slightest, so I can't see myself picking them up. And then there's kind of like a 3.2, so there's like a second part to this question, which is a problematic author you have no interest in reading. And for this, I'm going to say J.K. Rowling. I have read the Harry Potter series, and at the time I loved them, but given everything that she has since said, I just have no interest in reading anything she continues to write, nor do I have any plans of rereading anything she's written in the past, again, despite my fondness for them. Basically, if I get in the mood to read Harry Potter and experience that amazing magical world that J.K. Rowling created, I will dip into fanfic because there are some fantastic Harry Potter fanfics out there that will give me everything I could ever want from the Harry Potter world without having to deal with all the icky stuff that J.K. Rowling has said, done, and now looking back on it, put in her books. Question 4, an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided is not for you. So this was easy for me. My answer is Erin Morgenstern. I read The Starless Sea and The Night Circus and disliked both of them. I gave them both 1 star. Neither one of them did it for me. And I know a lot of people love both of those books, but they just were not for me. So I have no intention of picking up any of her books in the future. She just doesn't click with me as an author. Question 5, a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. So I've got 3 answers for this. The first would be horror. I'm a giant wimp, so you likely won't see me reading any horror books. I don't even like thrillers when they edge onto the horror genre. And if I'm going to read a spooky book, that's one thing. I may even read something that is technically considered horror for middle grade, but for me, it has to be more on the spooky end because if it really trails into horror, I'm just not interested. I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. I'm a wuss. The second would be erotica. I don't like smut. So I'm not going to read erotica because, well, it's full of smut, which leads me to my third, which is historical romance. And that tends to have a lot of smut in it or have a lot of issues because of the way women were treated in the past. So it's just a genre that I don't really have any interest in because it just doesn't appeal to me. Though I will say that is one I would never say never in, because if it had very little smut, like I don't mind a little bit. There is a level to it. I'd rather have it fade to black. Like, yes, we know they're all gonna go have sex, but I don't need the sex scene. So if you had a historical romance that had that and also didn't deal with some of the icky stuff with the way women were treated in the past, then I might be into it. I don't mind historical fiction that has romance as like a subplot, because usually that tends to not have as much of the issues I would have with a book that is just specifically historical romance. I have issues with the romance genre in general because, again, I like mine more light and fluffy and PG than rated X. So those would be my answers for that question. Question 6, a book you've bought but will never read. The Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. Even before she came out and said the controversial things that she said, I had heard awful things about this book and had no intention of picking it up, even though I owned it. I still own it, and honestly, I should really unhaul it, because I will never, ever, ever read that book. Ever. I have no intention of reading that book, not even hate reading it, not even as a joke. I can't picture a circumstance under which I read that book, so easy answer for that question. Question 7, a series you have no interest in reading or started to read and DNF'd. So I've got 2 answers for this, and that is The Hunger Games. I have never had any desire to read The Hunger Games, and I can't see myself picking it up. At this point, I think if that was a series I was going to pick up, then I probably would have done it when I was younger. My other answer is The Lord of the Rings. I had to read The Hobbit for one of my classes in college, and I absolutely hated it. Despised The Hobbit. Found it to be very, very boring. And the only thing I remember about The Hobbit is that there is some scene in the book where the main characters are in danger and they're watching sheep who are also in danger. And I remember thinking, can the main characters die and the sheep live? So it showed you that I was more attached to the random sheep that showed up halfway through the book than I was to the main characters. There's absolutely no earthly way I can see myself reading the Lord of the Rings books. Question 8, a new release you have no interest in reading. And for this, I'm going to say Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I don't know if this is like a super new release and would necessarily count, but it's the newest release I can think of that is somewhat popular, and I'm just like, full stop, no, I will not be reading that. I had a phase where I read the Twilight books, and now that I'm older, I understand how problematic some of the stuff that Stephanie Meyer did. Like, at the time, they were fine, but with all of the knowledge I've gained since I've read them, I would not recommend them. So I'm certainly not going to read Midnight Sun, which is literally just Twilight from Edward's point of view. I have heard enough people talk about what happens in that book and how it differs, and it just didn't appeal to me to spend the money to read that book or even take the time to take it out of the library and read it. So that seems like a pretty obvious answer. I can't really think of any others off the top of my head that I'm just like, full stop, there's no way it'll get me to read that. Though I'm sure there are, because I'm sure, for instance, there's horror books that are new releases that I won't read because they're horror, but that is a specific one that comes to mind when I see that question. So those are my answers for the Anti-TBR tag. If you've done this video, link it in the description below and I'll go check it out. And if not, or you're not on BookTube, feel free to answer the questions down below because I would love to know your answers. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a thumbs down emoji. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!